This movie is a mess. Like, goddamn, sorry to set the tone so early, but this movie is just all over the place. Well, what is it? Well, this is King Kong Escapes, the second and final Toho-produced King Kong film. After the kinda movie that was King Kong vs. Godzilla, Toho had a brilliant opportunity to redeem themselves for this King Kong solo film. And as you probably could have guessed from my opener, they didn't. They made a worse film. And I know that spoils the rankings later on, but I'm sorry, dude. I cannot contain my feelings on this. This was an absolute mess. It was sort of a loose, kinda not really remake of the original film, meaning they just kinda took elements of it and put it in this, and it was a jumbled plot, and there were so many holes, and it was super strange. The best way to summarize it for you before we get deeper into it is King Kong is kidnapped by evil people who want him to get something that they never really tell what it is for reasons they never really tell us what they are, and there's also a Mechanic Kong who's like, oh, I'm mechanical and I'm also King Kong, and then they fight and shit. And then, it's just, it's so jumbled. And guess who got roped into this? That's right, Akira Takata, who is back again for the third total film we've seen him in, and the second in a row. He was joined by two American actors, Rhodes Reeson and Linda Jo Miller. The villains in this movie were played by Hideo Ayamoto and Mihami, who played the villains Doctor Who and Madame Piranha. Did you say Doctor Who? Yes, I did. Not David Tennant Doctor Who, but evil, oh my god, look at his sweet cape Doctor Who. This movie was a co-made American-Japanese movie, and it was then just completely dubbed over into both Japanese and English. I decided to find the Japanese version because English dubs are usually painful, and I imagine this was better because if I had watched the English dub, I probably would have somehow hated this even more. But what exactly made this movie such a mess? Well, I'm gonna do my best to try to explain it to you as I take a look back at King Kong Escapes. Ironically though, it was released in Japan as King Kong's Counterattack, and I watched the Japanese version, so technically it's King Kong's Counterattack, but it's known more as King Kong's Escapes, so we're just gonna call it that. Alright, well, where to start? Let's begin in a submarine where we meet our heroes, Commander Carl Nelson, Lieutenant Commander Jiro Namuro, and also Lieutenant Susan Watson. They all work for the American military, I think, and they're going over some notes about some ancient creature called King Kong. They don't really have time to look for him though, because they have a mission, and on top of that, they don't really think he exists. But the villainous Doctor Who has other plans. Look at his sweet cape. Not only does he think King Kong exists, but he's created an exact replica, which he calls Mechanic Kong. He is being funded by Madame Piranha, whose government has invested millions in Doctor Who's work. Who does she work for? I don't know. She just keeps saying my government. She doesn't say which government, just my government. So I guess she works for the Bermuda Triangle or whatever the fuck. Also, Doctor Who reveals that he got the designs for Mechanic Kong from an old friend, Mr. Carl Nelson, who we literally just saw in the last scene. So anyway, what's the point here? Well, in order to help Madame Piranha's government, Doctor Who needs Mechanic Kong to dig up some highly radioactive element X. What the hell is element X? I don't know! Okay? They never tell you what it is, they just tell you that every government wants it. That's all they say about it for the entire fucking movie. They never say what element X is, they say, oh, everybody wants it. What is it? I don't know! They never told me what it is! Anyway, Doctor Who sends Mechanic Kong to go dig up some element X, and he starts bombing the place to get to it, I guess? He pushes back some rocks and is able to find it, but I guess the radiation is too much for him, and he just kinda short circuits. Well, Madame Piranha's had enough and she tries to dip out, but Doctor Who threatens to take his research otherwhere, so she's like, alright, fine, I'll give you one more chance, but seriously, just one more chance this time. I'm super duper serious about it. Meanwhile, back in the submarine, it appears our heroes have run into some rocks. It looks like the repairs are going to take a while, so they decide to surface. While surveying their surroundings, Nelson realizes, oh, we're right outside of Mondo Island, which is the home of King Kong, because that's super convenient. They make their way over to the island in some kind of floating hovercraft, because apparently this movie now takes place in the future. As they arrive, some screaming old man is like, hey, y'all need to fuck off. They're like, whatever, just ignore that guy. They all decide to explore, but this is a bros trip only, so they leave Susan behind. Susan won't be alone for long, though, as she's confronted by a giant Gorosaurus, which I'm pretty positive is not a real kind of dinosaur, but we'll just go with it. Run away, Susan, get out. Oh, shit. Alright, time for plan B. Scream your head off. That actually works for something. It wakes up a sleeping King Kong. King Kong stumbles out like, hey, what's all the commotion about? And he sees her and he's like, oh shit, a white woman? Yoink! The Gorosaurus is like, not so fast, it's time to duel! The Gorosaurus came prepared though, as this dude starts throwing some pretty wicked drop kicks. Eventually his drop-kicking power runs out, and Kong just puts him in a headlock, tackles him to the ground, and punches him until he dies. Kong picks Susan back up to admire her, but Susan, apparently being the smartest woman in the history of this franchise, is like, hey yo, please put me down, and he actually listens. Uh-oh, turns out the Gorosaurus isn't dead though, as he locks on to Kong's ankle, which allows the humans to escape. Kong then just kinda rips the Gorosaurus' jaw apart, because that's original. Anyway, Kong sees the humans leaving and oh shit, it's a giant sea serpent. Pissed at the world, I guess, Kong's just like yeet and bonks the sea serpent right in the head of a rock. Why the hell he did that, I don't know, but the sea serpent's like, hey, who did that? Oh, is it you guys? Alright, fuck you. And Kong comes out and is like, oh no, it wasn't them, it was me. And they start fighting and the humans go back to the submarine and Kong like yeets the serpent or whatever. Anyway, the submarine's still not fixed yet, and it's not gonna be at this rate, because Kong is here and he's rocking the boat, baby. Susan, who's been struck with a sudden case of brain damage, is like, okay, hey, how about this? I'll just go out and talk to him. He totally won't pick me up and try to kidnap me. Yeah, that's exactly what he does. Susan's like, ayo, please put me down. He's like, nah, son. She's like, aight, peace. So she jumps in the fucking water, and he just swipes her ass back up, and then puts her down. Her ass got soaked for no reason. And then the sub gets fixed, and then Susan's like, aight, Kong, I gotta peace out now. And Kong's like, aight, and then they peace out. I want to note, by the way, that this is about half hour through an hour and 40-minute movie, and at this point I'm losing my mind. Turns out I'm not the only one, as Kong has been stricken with a case of King Depression. Anyway, so our heroes have gone back to New York City, where they present their findings on King Kong. Madame Piranha is there though, and she overhears all of it, and then reports this information to Doctor Who. She stresses that Doctor Who has one more chance, really, super one more chance. Like, I'm gonna kill you if you mess this up one more chance. Oh, and also, you should probably kidnap these three dudes and let them help you find King Kong. Why does he need King Kong? Well, Doctor Who has determined that in order to get the Element X, he needs to kidnap King Kong and have King Kong do it himself, because Mechanic Kong isn't good enough because he's gonna short circuit and shit again. And now it's time for Operation Kidnap King Kong, and it turns out to be pretty easy. Doctor Who and some helicopters come over, and they just gas bomb Kong, because that worked out pretty well in King Kong 1933, and then Kong passes out. They land to survey him, and the old man comes up, he's like, hey, what the fuck you doing? You can't kidnap King Kong, and Doctor Who just fucking brutally murders him in front of witnesses. Anyway, they lift King Kong up and store him in their secret aircraft carrier base. Eat your heart out, Avengers. Anyway, our heroes and a whole explorer team have come to the island to study King Kong. They're able to determine that Kong had a struggle, not just any struggle, but a struggle with humans. Their suspicions are confirmed when they stumble upon the old man, who is somehow still alive, even though he got shot like 4 times. The old man basically tells them, yeah, they kidnapped King Kong, and he dies. Nelson somehow automatically knows that it was Doctor Who, I guess because they were old friends, and he jokes to Jiro, hey, as long as they didn't take him to the North Pole, we'll be able to find him. Yeah, they took him to the North Pole. And meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom, Doctor Who has a plan. He's just gonna hypnotize Kong, because that'll work. And now it's time for Plan Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. He sends 2 of his men to go pick up the commanders and take them to him, and they just go with him, even though Jiro's like, hey, these dudes aren't really Japanese, but they just go anyway because they're dumb as shit, I guess. Meanwhile, though, Doctor Who's plans are continuing to go well, as he successfully hypnotized King Kong. He equips him with an earpiece and instructs him to go down and dig up the Element X. Kong's doing a pretty good job and he's almost got it, but at the last second, Kong snaps out of it and rips the earpiece out. He then tries to skedaddle on out of there, but they're able to lock him in at the last second. But not all is lost, as our captive heroes are here. Doctor Who meets up with his old friends, and even though they refuse to help him, he gives them a very nice room to stay in. Nelson's not in there for long though, as they take him out to meet up with Madame Piranha, who attempts to seduce him. I guess she's not sexy enough though, because it doesn't work. I guess she has a fetish for being manhandled though, because she's like to Doctor Who, hey yo, don't torture him please, and Doctor Who's like, man, fuck you, I'll do what I want. Doctor Who has something more dastardly planned though. He takes Nelson out of the room again, and then turns off the heat where Jiro and Susan are locked in there and attempt to freeze them to death. Pissed at this, Nelson throws some of the worst punches in the history of goddamn cinema before he's very easily restrained. This dude's supposed to be a military commander, by the way, just saying. Anyway, Nelson and Doctor Who are playing chess now, and Doctor Who's like, "Ayo, help me," and Nelson's like, "Nah." Doctor Who's like, "Alright, fuck you then," and he goes back to Jiro and Susan, and he's like, "Hey, I killed Nelson," even though he fucking didn't, and he's like, "Ayo, you gonna help me now?" And they're like, "No." So they're like, "Okay," so he rips him apart, and he fucking handcuffs Jiro, and he's trying to freeze Susan's face, and oh my god, this movie. So why doesn't he freeze Susan's face? Well, it's because King Kong, who is still trapped in there, has finally had enough of this shit, and he causes a fucking avalanche or whatever, and then he just breaks out. He's like, "Ah, I'm King Kong, bitch, I'm out of here." Doctor Who's not gonna let Kong get away so easily, though, as he sends Mechanic Kong to go intercept him. Jiro and Susan reunite with Nelson, who's not dead, and they meet up with Madame Piranha, who's like, "Hey, yo, you guys wanna have a drink?" And they're like, "Okay." King Kong, meanwhile, does a full-ass yeet jump into the water and begins swimming away. Mechanic Kong is, well, mechanical, so his ass can't swim. Anyway, they're all having a drink in there until Doctor Who storms in and he's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? We still have shit to do." The reason they still have shit to do is because King Kong has made landfall in where else but Tokyo. And Doctor Who has a plan. He's gonna send Mechanic Kong to Tokyo and have him kill King Kong once and for all. Completing her babyface turn though, Madame Piranha's like, "Yeah, nah son, I'm not gonna let Tokyo get destroyed," and she decides to release the heroes. Our heroes are just about to swim away to Tokyo, but uh-oh, like 7 gunmen are here with machine guns. Luckily, these dudes seem to have stormtrooper aim, and the guns even sound like stormtrooper guns. I'm serious, they go pew 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 pew, and they miss all their shots and the heroes get away. Meanwhile, King Kong's strolling through Tokyo, but don't worry, the Japanese military are on the oh, damn it, not the tanks again. Nelson's like, "Nah, son, though, I got a better plan. We can't just shoot at him, we gotta calm him down." How are they gonna do that? Well, screw it, just let Susan talk to him. Susan goes to talk to him, and it looks like he's calming him down. Looks like everything's gonna be just, shit. That's right, Mechanic Kong is here, and he's gonna hypnotize you like Biggie Smalls, but luckily Jiro's like, "Shalla-bing, shalla-boom, gonna shoot you right in the dome," and he destroys the hypnotizer. And it looks like it's time for the final showdown, but Mechanic Kong's like, "Oh shit, a white woman, yoink." Mechanic Kong takes Susan and starts climbing up Tokyo Tower. Oh, come on. Speaking for Mechanic Kong, Doctor Who's all like, "Yo, go back to the ship or I'ma drop this chick." Looks like Madame Piranha has other plans. She's got a gun, which Doctor Who wrestles away from her, and then they have the weirdest goddamn fight I've ever seen in my entire life until Doctor Who gets the gun and just shoots her in the arm. Anyway, King Kong's had enough of this shit, and he starts climbing Tokyo Tower 2 in pursuit of Mechanic Kong. Kong catches up to Mechanic Kong pretty quickly and begins to shake on his leg, which causes Mechanic Kong to drop Susan. Luckily, Kong's got great fucking reflexes, and catches her, and then puts her down safely on a tower. While the Kongs continue to climb, Jiro goes up the tower to get to Susan, who's trying to climb down. As they're making their way down though, the Kongs begin to shake the tower, which causes Susan to almost fall off the edge. Luckily, some fellow military men are here with rope, and Jiro's able to get her back up to safety. Back on top of the tower, Mechanic Kong has the high ground and has a distinct advantage over Kong. However, in a last active face turn, Madame Piranha is able to pull the plugs, which causes Doctor Who to just straight up kill her. It worked out for the best though, as Mechanic Kong completely malfunctions and falls off the tower into pieces. Well, job well done everybody, we did it. But the next day, Kong and friends have some more business to take care of. Susan's like, "Ayo Kong, can you go over to Doctor Who's ship and just murder everybody?" And Kong's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go over to Doctor Who's ship and murder everybody." And that's what he does. Well, a murder well done for King Kong, and look, his friends are here to greet him. But Kong, much like me at the end of this film, is like, "You know what? No. No. I've had enough of this shit. Screw you guys. I'm going home." And that's how the film ends. Alright, well I know it's the most obvious result since the Warriors and the Cavaliers in the 2018 finals, but let's just get to the rankings here. Alright, well this is pretty easy. Even though Son of Kong was literally half a Kong movie, was this even a movie? I don't even know. So here's the new rankings. King Kong 1933 number 1, Godzilla vs. King Kong vs. Godzilla, number 2, Son of Kong number 3, and King Kong Escapes number 4. I really wish I could escape from this movie. Oh god, where do we start with this? Just where do we start? I mean, there was so much. We never found out what Element X is. Like, we never found out. They never told us what it is. It was just a thing that they needed. Also, where was Madame Piranha from? They never told us that either. She's just like, oh, I'm from a place that has war and shit. But she didn't tell us what it was. Where was she? Is she from the Bermuda Triangle? Is that legitimately where she is? Is she a ghost? Is she a wizard? Is she a space alien? Is she Puerto Rican? Like, I don't know. Where the hell is she from? They never told us. There were so many plot holes in this movie. Why was his name Doctor Who? Why did he have a sweet cape? And yes, this was the last King Kong movie that Toho was allowed to produce, and thank God for that. Because I love Toho, I love Godzilla, but Toho, what the hell was this? Like, you know that you want to do another movie after this. I think they wanted to remake King Kong vs. Godzilla in the 90s. But, like, why would you just phone this movie in? You're given an opportunity to make a solo King Kong film, and you just phone it in. Can we talk about King Kong's design, too? He looked weird as shit. He somehow looked worse than he did in King Kong vs. Godzilla. Like, the design was shit, this movie had no plot. The actors were good, at least. I'll give them that. Although they probably didn't sound very good in the English dub. Thank God I didn't watch that. And the villain was... they were all good actors. At least I'll give them that. At least the acting wasn't bad. It wasn't cringe or anything. But, like... yeah, it was just... I just don't know with this. I just don't know with this. And you know, I was just sitting here thinking, well, maybe I'll have a less frustrating review next week. No! I gotta watch fucking Iron Man 3 next week, which is gonna frustrate me as well for other reasons. I mean, but what else do you want me to say? At least Sonic Kong had a plot. At least King Kong vs. Godzilla had a plot. At least Godzilla Raids Again had a plot. This movie was a jumbled mess, and it didn't give us answers to anything. And, like, we didn't even know the point of anything. And it was really, really, really freaking frustrating. And at the end, again, Kong just had the same result of everybody. The same freaking reaction everybody. Just get me the hell out of here. I want to go home. And so do I. And I want this review to be over because this wasn't even a movie. This was a goddamn clusterfuck of epic King Kong related proportions. Alright, but hopefully it gets better for King Kong next, right? Well, there was another King Kong film for another, let's see, 9 years. Great, okay, they have 9 years to think of something new. What'd they come up with? They had a brilliant idea. Let's just fucking remake the first movie, except make it worse. But that, thankfully to God, is for another time. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for my look back at this movie, King Kong Escapes. Jesus, if I had to rank every movie that I've done so far, this would probably be at the bottom. I guarantee you this will be at the bottom. This movie was an hour and 40 minutes and it felt like I was watching the Peter Jackson movie. Like, Jesus. It was only an hour 40, felt like longer. I was ready to quit half an hour in, but I powered through for the power of look back and King Kong and movie reviews and all that crap. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for my look back at King Kong Escapes. Luckily, we can now escape this movie, as next week we will look back at Iron Man 3. The week after that, we're going to do a new franchise. We're going to do Saw, which was requested by Blade using his channel points on my Twitch. What are we going to do after that? I don't know. Maybe we'll dive into this shitty King Kong remake, or maybe we'll do more Godzilla. Actually, yeah, probably more Godzilla. We'll do that instead. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they're down in the description down below. Thank you to all 40. Jesus Christ, is that 43 now? There's a lot of y'all now. There's a lot of y'all now. I believe it's 43. Yes, 43 of my Patreons. For your constant support of me and my channel, I appreciate you guys. My name is Noah Taff. I have suffered from my art on this day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.